right, it's time for world politics. And of course, the big story in politics is the government shutdown here in the United States and all along those lines. So, definitely a lot of folks are talking about this government shutdown and how long it will last and everything like that. So, Trump is saying he wants to clear out dead wood, whatever that means, and everything like that. So, there's even reports that Democrats could have more shutdown leverage than people realize. And the Trump administration has already axed 1.1 billion in the Washington clean energy funding and all along those lines. So a lot of people are going to be talking about this government shutdown and what this all means and all along those lines. So definitely that is something that is on the political landscape. It's a United States story, but even it is being paid attention to around the world and all along those lines. Trump is even eyeing cuts to Democratic agencies in the government shutdown, or what he's calling Democratic agencies, and all along that kind of space. So we're going to see what folks have got to say about this government shutdown, as well as what folks are thinking about the ICE raids and everything like that, because apparently there was a massive immigration raid in a Chicago apartment building, which left residents reeling. And one resident said that they felt defeated, and that was something that was going on. And Trump says Chicago could become a military training ground. And I was looking on Facebook earlier, and one of my Facebook friends was talking about how, the National Guard may train in various cities and states and everything like that, but never in downtown areas. But what Trump is talking about, they might actually be training in the downtown areas and all along those lines. So it definitely looks like there could be some interesting things going on in terms of whether we're heading toward a dictatorship or all along those lines. So I'm going to bring in Jim, see what some of his thoughts are around these stories and other stories and what he's got going on in his world over there in California and everything like that. So how are you doing, Jim? Looks like you just got all kinds of interesting things happening in the world of politics with a government shutdown that is now, I guess, in day two, getting ready to go on day three, and we'll see whether we can make that record or not. Because I think the record was 31 under Trump's last administration. So we'll see if we actually shatter that record. I know it was 30 plus, and it might have been even as many as 34, 35. I don't remember exactly, but I know it was definitely more than a month and everything like that. So what's your take on what's going on in the world?
Well, with regard to the government shutdown, the real thing that they're at loggerheads over is extending the Affordable Health Care Act, and this is the consequences of not extending it, which is the Republican position, or would only help hurt the poor people and people that need it. And so it's a callous disregard for those American citizens that need health care. And, it's not because they don't want to work, because that's the other side of the coin, is that the shutdown leads to job loss.
Right.
And job loss is not something that should be some sort of shock to people, because job growth has been dropping, and while inflation is rising, it's the worst of both worlds. When we don't have people employed now, young people are coming out of college, and there's no jobs available for them to take. Part of that is artificial intelligence is making the entry level white collar jobs harder and harder to find. So this is there's a confluence of things that are going on in the world that are making jobs scarcer. People are not hiring. They're often using artificial intelligence to increase their productivity, which means that people don't have to do things anymore, and they don't need the people. And there's also an interesting note that the artificial intelligence is creating busy work for some people. So that's a non-productive busy work. There's lots of things that we're going to find out in the next few years about artificial intelligence and the way that it's impacting people. But the government shutdown is punitive. Trump is trying to use it to hurt blue states in particular, canceling funding for them. And how long it's going to last, who knows? Who's going to give in on affordable health care for Americans who need it? I think both sides have dug in to their positions, and I don't know what's going to happen and when it's going to be resolved. But it's also one of the consequences is the further weakening of the U.S. dollar, because when jobs are lost and inflation is still going on, People lose confidence in investing in the U.S. dollar. So when the government issues, we have this national debt that's in the trillions and growing, and so we have to issue bonds to fund it and to try to pay it off. And we're not paying it off; it's just growing. But they issue these government bonds, and they're going to have to charge higher and higher interest rates to attract people to invest in it, because people have lost the confidence in the U.S. dollar, and there's a loss of confidence in the United States in general. There's a lack of trust that's going on. And the other thing you brought up was ICE, and this is the kind of thing that training the military in the streets of a city is not a democratic state. It's a fascist state. And you and I both remember 4 Dead in Ohio.
Yeah.
And, this is the kind of thing that was once a national outrage. And now we just seem to just think it's just another thing that happened in the news today. Not worth paying much attention to, not worth getting worked up about. But no, when you have the military presence in your cities, this is a change in what America stands for, what America has represented for a couple of centuries now. And we don't use the military within our borders until very, very recently. So these changes are not for the best. It's not America at its best.
No, not at all, and everything. Something else that we used to not hear a lot about. I mean, maybe back in the Wild Wild West days, it used to be very common and everything like that. But I remember a time, and maybe you remember it too, Jim, when the quote unquote fairer sex, and I know that some people don't like that term and everything along those lines, was not one that would be executed, but a state adjacent to me is going to execute a woman for the first time in over 200 years. And I can't remember what Krista Pike did and everything along those lines, but I do remember a time that was almost like something that people didn't approve of, just because they thought that was not a good moral look or all along those lines. But yeah, it looks like they might be doing that for the first time in over 200 plus years. And that's definitely fascinating that they're going to do that. I'm going to do some more research into what her crime was. I imagine it was something having to do with murder or some other horrific crime that she was convicted of, and all along those lines. But it's just fascinating, because when they said that was going to be the first time that a woman had been executed in over 200 years, I'm going and particularly in that state, I was going well, wow. And I know there had been other states. I think Texas has had a couple of women executed, and maybe even a couple of the other states that are into executions. I know that even I think the Pope was putting his mind into the whole notion of capital punishment and abortion, because I think he was saying that he didn't think that you could be for one and be for the other and everything. So you couldn't be some people are pro capital punishment and anti-abortion and everything like that. And
or the reverse, yes.
Or the reverse, right? But he was thinking that wasn't a moral agreement in his mind and everything like that. But I didn't know.
He's making a good point, and it comes down to the value of a human life and what you consider a human life. It wasn't that long ago in this country that you had to be a certain color to be considered to have a valuable life. And so laws were different for people that had different skin tones. Right. And, we're now talking about male and female executions. The whole question of executions is one topic. Whether it's male or female, I believe in female equality, the right to serve in the military, and the right to accept the consequences of their behavior, as we all do. Right. If capital punishment is okay in this country, then it applies to everybody, all adults, people that are of sane mind and sound bodies. That they are willing to, or must pay the consequences of their actions before the law. However, is capital punishment, whether it's a male or female, and again, the calculations often go down when you're in this administration. is to how much is the cost. It's
Right.
cheaper to kill you than it is to feed you.
Right.
So, the value of human life is something that is also diminished in my lifetime. It was thought of as one thing when I was young, and it seems to be something else now. We don't care if the poor are hungry, sick, tired, and the Statue of Liberty says, "Give us your poor, your tired, your huddled masses," and now we're saying, "Stay away." It's one of the reasons why I think that other countries are no longer looking towards the U.S. as a beacon of freedom. But
Some of the
yes,
other countries are even laughing at the U.S. because I heard that there was a couple of conferences that Trump has been at, and some of the remarks he's made, and there was like no, there was a time that world leaders would hide if they disagreed, not like hide their expression if they disagreed with what the president was saying. But some of these world leaders are basically thinking of Trump as almost like a joke, and they see like the 2028 hats when he's negotiating with Hakeem Jeffries and Schomburg and everything like that, and they're wondering like, well, is this man a real person or is he like a clown? And all along those lines, so they are treating, unfortunately, a lot of people from the United States with disdain, not just the president, but just folks from America in general, particularly the United States here, and all
I
along those.
remember when Trump first ran, that Senator Lindsey Graham said, "If we elect this clown, the Republican Party will never recover." And they did elect him, and the Republican Party has not recovered. It used to be a party for free trade, and now we're putting tariffs all over the place. And the tariffs are backfiring. And of course, the countries that they're assigned to don't pay the tariffs. They just charge what they would have charged anyways to importers who have to either eat the tariff or pass it on to the American consumer. And of course, they don't want to hurt their profit line, so they're passing it on to the American consumer. It's inflationary. And what to think of the way tariffs are, you think of them as taxes, because where does that money go? It goes to the federal government. If you don't want to pay taxes, why are you paying tariffs? Because you're paying for it.
Yeah, we're definitely paying for it. Hey, along those same lines and everything, I think on World Edition earlier today we were talking about this, but there's this notion which I think is just ludicrous. I'm sure you probably think the same because I know both you and Sasha deal with NVIDIA and everything. But apparently, he wanted the country of Taiwan to bring half of their chips to America, and the people in Taiwan basically were like, no, that's okay. We're perfectly fine. So they were trying to send a bunch of their chips over here, even though he was asking them to do like a significant amount of chip manufacturing here in the United States.
Why? Why?
It was all part of the tariff negotiations. But I was like you. I'm like, if they have the market cornered and they seem to have a significant market.
What's next? He's going to ask Vietnam to make sneakers in America? Come on.
Yeah.
This is just the kind of shallow thinking, the me first thinking that characterizes Trump his entire life, and he doesn't think of the consequences to others, but what he can get out of the deal, whatever deal it is. And this is a one-way ticket. It's only going to help the United States. Why would Taiwan do that? It's like it's a ludicrous request, except people are taking it seriously.
Yeah, people are taking it very seriously. They're like, well, okay, let's go ahead and try to get some chips made here. And like I said, I think that it would take like multiple years, even the resources that would be needed to manufacture chips, whereas they have already got those things in other parts of the world, like that whole notion of Taiwan and other Asian countries. So I'm going like, I think I've heard somewhere that it would take it a whole lot of time to do it and everything like that. I know that you're a big person around freedom and definitely making sure that people are free and all along those lines. And there was a major figure who she had a lot of things to say about that as well. And I was just wondering your thoughts on Jane Goodall, because I know she did a lot of work with the chimpanzees and everything like that. And apparently one of her Ellie Golden was in honoring Jane Goodall's legacy, was putting this quote, "There's no prosperity on a dead planet." And apparently she changed science in a lot of ways. And I know that you are a person that along those lines. So I just wanted your thoughts around this legendary Jane Goodall she did of work with the chimpanzees and other primates.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, her work in the early '60s did change science and opened the door for women to participate in science in a way that never had happened before, and without someone like Jane Goodall, that would not have happened. And so the thing is that she was able to observe chimpanzees and report on their behavior in ways that had never been reported before. We learned so much more. For example, that they used tools, and they made tools to use. And so that was one of the distinctions between what was human and what was not human was tool making. And so I forget who it was, but it was famous psychiatrist, I believe, who said that we're either going to have to redefine tool making, or we're going to have to understand that chimps are human. It was a revolutionary work in our understanding of other species, how close they are, and our DNA, the closest relative we have is chimpanzees. But it was the opening up the doors to science that was her lasting legacy. But she was also able to go on television shows. I remember seeing her when I was young on shows discussing this. For dramatic effect or comedic effect, she would bring a chimpanzee with her. But she formed bonds with them. And, she was able to talk about, they had organized warfare, things like that we had not considered possible. So the communication levels between chimpanzees were also so underestimated before her than the reality of what was really going on. And so it's a question of whether or not we're paying attention. And thank goodness for her that she paid attention to a subject that we were ignoring, and we had all these preconceived notions of.
Yep, she definitely did a lot of research, and I do also remember her being on various TV shows, like whether it was one of the late night shows or whether it was one of the news shows or stuff like that, and bringing some of her primate friends out there, the chimpanzees and others, and definitely still watching them in different environments, including studio audiences. It was definitely interesting to get that kind of connection to Mother Nature. Whenever I think of Mother Nature, I usually think of people like her and Walt Cousteau. They did a lot with the sea life and everything like that. And then, of course, National Geographic, and of course, Wild Wild Kingdom. Because I was a big fan of Wild Kingdom, Mutual Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Yeah, the big sponsor of that, right? It's back in the '60s, talking about the environmental impacts of some of the things that we were doing as a species, as humans. A lot of those things were becoming conscious because of the work of others, such as Jacques Cousteau, who taught us about the ocean and life within the ocean, and how man-made activity could interfere with those living environments. And we started to get a little bit more social conscious, but it really wasn't until a river in Ohio started to burn. We started to pass legislation that ended up in controlling the toxic waste that we would just dump into rivers everywhere. Because we have this we have this thought that that things there's an endless supply of things. We thought about that in land, and we just go west, young man, and there's all this land, and it's a finite resource.
Definitely a finite resource. I used to see that Go West young man, that was Horace Greeley, the famous journalist and everything, and he actually spent some time in my hometown of Warrenton. So they actually have, I think the plaque is still up. I haven't been back home in a long time because Mom moved to Rocky Mountain, and I still have some friends in that area, but I do know that he had a occasion to spend some time in that small country town. So there was a plaque in his name and honor there, and I'm assuming that plaque is still there and everything along those lines. But he's the one that came up with
Yes.
impression about the Go West Young Man. But I also remember I had a book. I don't think I have it anymore, but or if I do, it's buried somewhere and everything called Ecotage. But that was about a gentleman named I think it's kind of like Alias was the fox and everything like that. But he would literally go and do what became known as ecological sabotage. So, like if there was somebody
Oh,
dumping stuff in a river, he would go find all the dead fish and sneak into the corporate president's office and dump the dead fish right there in his office. So he knew exactly what he was doing to the society. And I can only imagine if you were in that office and everything, and you came back the next day and you're like, what is all this stinky fish doing in here and everything like that? But he
yes.
was known for doing some very radical things like that and all
Yeah,
along the
yeah. Well, the Go West Young Man, there's a couple of things. One is that land was thought to be an inexhaustible supply, but of course it's a finite resource. Um, we've spread out wherever there is adequate drinking water, people exist now in this country. But the other side of that was that the Eastern establishment had become so uh, the status quo was very different to change. The status quo is very difficult for a young person to break into. It was very much about opportunity because the opportunity to make it on your own in the East Coast was, it wasn't available to the extent that it had been. So he was very astute in this observation.
Yeah, he was very astute in that observation. Everything. Speaking of being a student, is that kind of dictatorial thing that we were talking about with Trump and everything like that. Apparently, and this is down in your neck of the woods, he is offering benefits to schools if they will agree to his agenda. So he's offering benefits to USC, University of Southern Cal, MIT, and other schools who agree to its agenda. So, U.S. memo to college proposes terms on ideology, foreign enrollment in order to get certain federal funds, and even UT Austin in Texas is among the 9 universities that have been asked to sign a new compact by the Trump White House. And if that doesn't sound dictatorial, I don't know what does and everything, because that definitely
Yeah,
sounds like a
he thinks
dictator would do.
everything can be purchased,
Right.
and if his way doesn't make sense and isn't popular and people don't want to do it, he can pay people to do it. And yeah, I do want to point out USC is in Southern California. I'm in Northern California.
Right.
Uh,
Correct.
it's a very long state.
It is. It is a very long state. One of the longest states around. So definitely.
But we try we kid each other now, but there has been a lot of tension between North and South Carolina, South California, because a lot of it has to do with water, because water is also a very finite resource.
Oh yeah.
We thought we could have an endless supply, and we can't. So the problems of irrigation, and it's the California is a lot of farmland, and a lot of produce is grown here in California and shipped elsewhere. But you need a lot of water for that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
um,
no doubt about that. Do you
and,
think is it, or is it just me? But do you think that because I know there's been talks about Trump and his mental health and everything like that, but and I know he definitely has some bully attitudes and some bully ways and everything, but sometimes he also reminds me, and maybe I'm saying this because I have two in my life in the sense of my nephews and everything like that, but sometimes he reminds me of a petulant teenager, like what he's been doing with these sombrero videos that he keeps posting and all along those lines. And even Vance is thinking that it's funny, even though folks know that it's a fake video. And then he had those 2028 hats and everything like that. So it seems like he's just acting like a petulant teenager, even though he's well into his, I won't say he's pushing near 80 if he's not already at 80 and everything like that. But he seemed like one of those, and maybe he was that way as a teenager, but he
he
definitely
never
seemed
grew
like,
up.
good.
Some people have their emotional maturity level ends at a certain point, sometimes in high school. And I believe he's one of those people that never really grew up emotionally. And so it was always about acquisition, getting stuff, and posturing. This bullying stuff. It's when you have all bark and no bite. People learn to ignore you. For example, when he met with Putin, he came in there. Where there's going to be a ceasefire, blah blah blah, barking away, and he came out saying, "Oh, ceasefires never work." No bite. And Putin, he got no concessions from Putin, not even a face-saving concession. Putin gave him nothing. and it does not fear Trump, and Putin would respond to fear, but he has no fear of Trump whatsoever. The American people need to wake up and realize that,
Yeah.
Trump's barking is not scaring anyone.
Well, it's not even scaring the drug cartels, even though he's doing some stuff that I don't understand. Because right now he's saying the U.S. is in an armed conflict with drug cartels after he ordered some strikes, I guess, on some of the cartel areas and everything like that. But didn't he also like recently blow up some ships that were in the water, and there was
Yes.
even no proof that there was any drugs being carried by those ships and everything like that? Because if you blow up something to smithereens in the ocean, there's going to be very little evidence of what you blew up and everything like that. So I'm
Yes.
not even sure that there was actual drugs being carried by those ships. And I'm not saying that there aren't pirates and drug runners in the waters of the ocean, because we know that that is the case and everything like that. But he should have at least provided us some sort of evidence of
Yeah. Well,
attacking.
yeah. Russia is not a communist state. Russia is a fascist state.
Right.
And one of the things about fascism is that you can tell people what you want them to believe. And so whether or not this was a drug cartel ship leaving from Venezuela or not,
Right.
they tell us it is, and many people will just believe it.
Yeah.
They aren't asking the questions that you're asking. It's
Right.
like, where's the evidence for that?
Where's the evidence? That's what I want to know, and everything like that.
It goes down to accountability, and Trump feels he's not accountable. He's convicted of multiple felonies, no accountability. He got elected to be president. So he can say what he wants without consequence.
Oh,
and
totally.
he's getting away with it. So why wouldn't he think that?
Yeah. And speaking of accountability and all along those lines, this might be one of, because I know I did one with Sasha that was a little bit short as well, because I got to get to the other show with Coco and all along those lines. But just speaking of accountability, I don't think that we really have, different people have different attitudes about people, even when they are living and even when they are past and everything like that. Like, not everybody thinks that the Che Guevara was a great guy, but a lot of people wear his shirts, and some of them wear them just because they think it's cool. But some people know his history and they enjoyed what he was about in terms of revolution and all along those lines. And the same can be said of somebody else that recently passed as well, which is the godmother of Tupac Shakur, the rapper and everything. But I've been watching on social media where some people, including our own person in Trump's administration, Patel, is sitting there over there trying to criticize people for honoring Hassada Shakur after her death and everything like that, which is kind of like the pot calling the kettle black, because nobody really got that much on folks honoring Charlie Kirk, even though he said some words that weren't all that kind to people and everything like that. So, like I said, whether she committed that crime or not, and there's been some doubt as to whether that was actually the case, just like there were with the Wounded Knee incidents and all along those lines and everything like that. She did live in exile in Cuba, and apparently was very active in the fight against or the fight for freedom for Puerto Rico and everything like that, and was a supporter of that notion and all along those lines. But there's a lot of people that she was a folk hero for, and she was a member of the Black Panthers, and the Black Panthers brought us programs like WIC and other programs that the government adopted and all along those lines. So I don't know how you feel about it, because I do know that she was very active in the West Coast before she escaped and moved to Cuba, where she was living when she passed away.
Yeah. This is a very complicated question. In a situation where there's a lack of understanding. Right. And what I have found, myself included, we often have contempt prior to investigation. We also, we just make a snap judgment about someone without doing any investigating into finding out the facts and the real subject matter. But yeah, I think that that she was fighting for freedom, and even though it's kind of counterintuitive to say she was in Cuba to do it, but to make Puerto Rico a state, for example, fighting for the underdog, the people that are suffering from oppression. This is usually someone's doing this not to become wealthy, not for their own personal gain, but for a cause that they believe in. And so people like that I tend to admire. Now, are their acts horrific, and do they do horrific things? And so this is a delicate balance that we all must come to judgment about based on our own conscience. And The thing is that they don't judge so quickly. Pay attention to the facts and look at all these sides to the issues, and then use your own inner resonance as a guide to whether or not you think this person deserves credit or deserves to be ignored. That you could say the same things about Charlie Kirk. No one wants to see political or public assassinations. This is a horrible thing that we can all say that it's shocking when it happens, and but what he represented, we can't confuse the two. There was a murder took place right in front of our eyes.
Right in front of our eyes and the eyes of college kids and everything like that. Because he was on a college campus and when it took place, and that will be something that will traumatize them for life and everything like that. And it was a big crowd, so definitely there's that aspect as well. We don't know, because I know you're very much about mental health, what kind of an impact that's going to have on the mental health of those people that were there in the audiences witnessing that horrific act.
I believe that trauma is the right word, and it also, what happens is that people then think in terms of vengeance, of striking back, and this is one of the attitudes that we must shift, so that we don't think of people as enemies to be killed, to be obliterated, Nixon had an enemies list. Trump has an enemies list. These are not enemies. He wants to. He pulled the plug on NPR and PBS, public service.
He just added something worse today and everything, because apparently he has a new directive. He loves his executive orders and he loves his directive, but he put out a directive today where he is classifying anti-capitalism and anti-American views as domestic terrorism. So if you have any disagreement with him in terms of it being anti-capitalistic or anti-American, then you are going to be deemed a domestic terrorist according to this new directive that he's putting out. And I know a lot of folks that would probably be in that category, including some friends.
One of the professors I took at UMass was Marxist, and it was a great class. I learned a great deal from it. But this silencing of other voices, you have the right to free speech, unless you're living in America today, I guess.
Yeah, apparently you don't have it in America today and everything. Apparently not here, not according to some of these things they're doing. They're just very scary and all along those lines. And then apparently Howard Lutnick believes Jeffrey Epstein may have used blackmail to get a lighter service. So this is what the Commerce Secretary is saying, and all along those lines. So this is just crazy, the things that are going on in that space. I'm going to let you and Jatovia talk for a minute while I go and check on Coco and everything, but Jatovia's here and everything like that. So I'm going to turn it over to y'all too. How's it going?
Hey, Jim. Oh, pretty good, pretty good. I'm off on the road again, as always.
Are you pulled over on the side, or are you driving?
Over on the side right now.
Yeah, good. Safety first, man.
Yes. Have you been, Jim?
I've been great. How about yourself?
Been pretty good. A little bit busy trying to get stuff going, but yeah, it's just.
Is the baseball season over for you guys, or?
Yeah, baseball's all done. Now just focused on trying. I've started a fundraiser that I'm trying to get off the ground, and if I can, it's a community fundraiser where it's trying to raise money for the public school system, the police department, fire department, all stuff that are things that are free for kids. Well, public interest, but mainly things that are free for kids to do that people don't know about. So hopefully adding more money into these things that kids can jump into that are free. Like there's a thing called the Police Athletic League here in Durham. It's up and down the East Coast. Yeah. But it's basically where they take kids out on different camping functions. They take them to play basketball, just do a whole bunch of fun little different things.
Right.
But a lot of kids don't know about it.
Yes. This is the thing is so what you're fundraising for is kind of promotional, raise the awareness that these things exist.
Not only it's a multiple, the motive and idea behind it, it's got a myriad of things tied into it. So yes, I want to raise awareness of it. I also want to raise money so these can be funded, so they'll be there for kids. Like the Young Fire Marshals program is a program, with the fire department, and to give them money so they can not only fund, have more kids involved, but also have it last a full year. Then on top of that, the bigger reason I'm trying to do it with these entities that are very on the forefront of our minds, but I mean, we see them all the time, but we never really not only take advantage of them in terms of utilize them, because we
take them for granted.
Yes, we see them in a different space than we actually are in. Like we see police officers, especially in the Black community, because there is a divide, and it's a well established divide because of reasons that we don't need to get into because we all understand them.
And they're well documented.
Yep, well documented. But because they're there, it divides it I guess in a way amplifies the snitches get stitches, and I'll never talk and I never tell when you see something go bad or you see something happen. You don't know, you don't have anybody to talk to. So you isolate yourself. You end up with a bigger problem than you started out with. So
talking about a breakdown of trust, which is going on in this administration. The rest of the world seems to, although he's done a great job of dividing the United States, he's united the world against us.
Exactly.
And they don't trust him, which is understandable from their perspective. So that you're talking about it at a local level and you're doing something about it at a local level, which I admire. I think that doing things locally, often, my head can get in the clouds and I think globally, or I think in big pictures about international cooperation, but it really starts in your own backyard, doesn't it, Jacoby?
It does. Because the thing is, we can, as much as, even the people that love or the people that hate Trump, he doesn't know anybody that is in this area. But there are people that are diehard that will do anything for him. He doesn't care about that. But if you want to make a real difference or a real change, you have to start local, and then it has to bleed out from there. Because if people begin, and that's the theory behind everything that I'm putting together, and the fundraiser piece is actually is one of the pillars that I want to have happen. Because if I can create a fundraiser where the local community is coming together to support the local community and start to bring in other entities. For example, right now I'm just fundraising for DPS, or the Durham Public School System, the Durham Fire Department, the Durham Police Department, the Durham EMS, and the recovery efforts on 2 local areas that got devastated by floods, which are hitting the western North Carolina as well as Durham, North Carolina. There was areas in Durham that got harmed. So as these entities are all involved, spreading the word, trying to get the information out, trying to let everybody know, hey, look, we're trying to make something happen for the kids and actually the individuals that are in pain. We need to help them.
Yes. So
the goal then, once the actual fundraiser happens, the goal is to have other entities come in, because we all love sports. We all love competition. No matter, even if it's just playing chess, competitive chess, just, hey, I read 157 words per minute. How many can you read? That's still a competitive idea. And there's a challenge, and that brings us together as a community, and we forget about what's outside when we go into those competitions with friends and with people that we can trust. And that's a huge piece around this community effort, is if the police are seen, because I'm having these police officers and the teachers and the fire department play video games. Kids play video games.
Yeah.
That's stigma. That is what is. So now if the kids can see this police officer playing a game that they're playing and getting frustrated, it breaks down. It's a different way for that child to see that officer.
It humanizes them.
Exactly.
And they can relate to them.
Exactly. Now I can talk to them. Now if something happens, I can say, hey. So then while doing that, in that competitive setup, I'm going to have other entities like a veterans organization come in and say, hey, look, I like how you guys were competing. And, I think I could win this competition against the police officers. So now, hey, now I've got the veterans organization now in this competition where it's about community, and the community's all supporting the competition because they want to see what's going on. So it bleeds out that way, and you begin to have a whole community come around. Not the idea that, hey, I have to support this group because of. No, it's just, hey, this is just fun for everybody to watch and be a part of. So then that'll bleed out, hopefully, and continue to take shape to where in maybe 3 or 4 years, we've got 10 organizations in Durham that are all being helped in this fundraiser by this fundraiser. And this same model is taken to Orange County, which is right beside Durham County. Now you have Orange County doing the same thing with their community. Now you got communal pride that you can play off of because, hey, you know what? I think the EMS in Durham plays video games better than EMS in Orange County.
No.
So let's all do a local 3-city challenge or a 3-county challenge. And now you're raising money for these organizations in a different light. And it continues to bleed out again. And that is the growth. And that's starting out local, where then it could turn into something national, which would be great. But it's just a different view. It's a whole idea behind community. Let's build a root. If we can build that root, a tree will grow.
I agree. I agree. Oh, Mark's back.
No problem. No, go ahead. Talk in case use the conversation.
We were just talking about Jacoby's fundraising efforts, and the one takeaway for me was that he's talking about communities cooperating. And one of the lessons that I learned growing up is it was better to do things alone. Be your own man, and don't rely on other people for help. And asking for help is something everyone needs help at some point in time. And asking for help is very difficult for me. But I was thinking, okay, I'm growing up with that attitude, and one of the popular shows I really like it is Reacher, and Reacher's like this guy who just does everything by himself. So the same message is being sent out there. Whereas when we put our hands together, it's lighter work. And when we have a community, we're organizing together to accomplish whatever goal it is. And these are laudable goals. These are the types of things that can be done only if people cooperate rather than, and you can even you can make cooperation by competition. So it's that's what Utopia is doing, playing video games against our mayor plays this video game better than your mayor.
Yeah. And that's the fun of, that's the beauty of it, is it's the simple, and it's not complex. It's just simple.
Yes.
Yep.
And inherently, when you take a look at these things, the answers are fairly simple. And they've been known for centuries. We just a lot of times Teddy Roosevelt described the president as a bully pulpit, by which he meant not to be a bully, which is the way it's being exercised now, but it's good. Bully meant it's a good pulpit, because the leaders, what they say matters, and it changes people's minds and can get them. When JFK said we're going to put a man on the moon, the country mobilized for that objective. So when we're hearing talk that elevates us, it's useful. And when we hear talk that denigrates some of us, it divides us. And it's not useful, it's harmful. And we need a different voice telling us to work together. And it doesn't matter if you're wearing the blue of the police department or the red of the fire department. You both have value to our community.
Yep.
Exactly.
No doubt about that and everything. But we're going to wrap this up a little bit earlier because, like I said, I got to get to the other show and everything like that. So I had Jim from the majority of it. Glad you were able to pop in, Toby. So we're getting ready to wrap it up a little bit early today and everything. And we'll be back on World Edition tomorrow and everything, as well as World Politics on the next Tuesday and Thursday. But we're getting ready to wrap up. So Coco's actually going to be talking politics with some local politicians on her show. So it's usually
wish her well. Yes.
And
good to see you, Toby.
It's always good to see you, Jim.
Thank you.
I'll take it easy. Bye.